The theme of our season this year is Take Your Power Back. And you have a great story, a great result of a story, it was tough at the time, about your aneurysm. Tell us that story.
I woke up one day, I was on top of the world. I just moved from Dallas to New York City, and I remember looking in the mirror saying, God, thank you so much. This is so awesome. I've always wanted to be here. This is amazing. My head exploded. And, you know, I have a high tolerance for pain, but this was a whole different thing. I was nauseous. I was trembling on one side, numbness, pins and needles on the other side. And it was, you know, you oftentimes hear people say the headache of your life. I knew it wasn't normal. Something was not normal. And so my assistant took me to the emergency room. And, you know, when you go into an emergency room dressed for television, full makeup and an outfit, and you're competing with gunshot wounds and everything else, right? And people presenting with heart attacks. So they kept walking around going, she just has a headache. She just has a headache. I went in and out of consciousness. And I finally, when the doctor came up to talk to me, I grabbed her wrist and I would not let go. And I said, listen to me. This is not just a headache. Let's start with the worst thing it can be, which is possibly a brain aneurysm that burst. And let's work our way down till she just has a headache. And then I said to her, I'm insured by 3 different companies and I can write a check. Right? But, and then I passed out again. And when I came back to consciousness, there was a doctor leaning over me who said, you're right. You had a brain aneurysm that burst. There's a lot of blood in there right now. We can't see certain things, so we're kind of waiting to be able to see. But it was the insistence that something was wrong. And so many of us, when we have a headache, I know I've met so many people who've had aneurysms or have family members who passed away because of aneurysms that would say, yeah, they said I had a headache, so they laid down and took some aspirin, right? And so I'd always heard that before, of people who would say, yeah, they took an aspirin, laid down. And I just kept thinking, this is not normal. I don't have migraines. I've never had a migraine in my life. And so when things are not normal, you got to get out there and check and see what it is, you know. I'm really a big fan right now of preventive medicine. I had a heart scan the other day. That's like a very, the top technology of heart scans, 128 slices. So I can see where I stand. And the doctor's point was, we want to prevent a heart attack. When do we usually show up to the doctor? When we're in crisis, right?
That's right. That's right.
So now I know, he said, that it's as clean as it gets. He goes, a city bus may run over you, but you're not going to die of heart disease. That's one thing I can take off my list. He goes, your lungs are clear, your heart is clear. You know, other things may get you.
We still don't want a bus to run over you, though. My goodness.
I'm staying away from the buses.
Okay.
But look, you know, the thing is, we know that there are so many things that can cause problems for you, and a lot of us too, we don't want to go to the doctor to check to see what's coming.
Well, you know, Deborah, speaking of that, you know, October is World Stroke Month, so it's important that we have to check in on where we are with strokes and understanding strokes. Dr. Carolyn Brockington, stroke neurologist from Mount Sinai in New York, will talk to us about women and strokes. Dr. Brockington, thanks for joining the show. Deborah talked about her aneurysm, but there is a connection, and luckily she didn't have a stroke, but there is a connection between an aneurysm and stroke. Can you explain that?
If you think of aneurysm, what that is, it's a ballooning off the wall of an artery. And in this case, the artery is filled with blood, right? So if the balloon gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the more likely it might rupture or spill. And so it spills blood between the brain and one of the layers of the brain. So we call that a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Sub underneath, arachnoid is one of the layers of the brain, hemorrhage. And it starts to create symptoms right away. So when she said, hey, my head was going to explode, the classical description is the worst headache of your life, that you feel like your head is just going to come off of your shoulders. And I give kudos to her because she wouldn't allow somebody to say, oh, it's just a headache. She knew something was wrong. She knew this wasn't how she's felt before. And so I think that she was instrumental in making sure that she recovered quite well.
You know, speaking of headaches, stress often is a big provocateur of headaches. Give us the relationship between stress and what we experience with our heart or our brain, or even is there a real causal relationship?
Stress, it's indirect. It's not that you have a fight with your boss and then a moment later you're going to have a heart attack, or somebody cuts you off in the traffic and then, oh my God, you know, I'm going to have a stroke. It's this constant sort of raising of blood pressure, elevation of heart rate, et cetera, that is constantly affecting parts of your body, your heart, your brain, your kidney, that over time can sort of result in these conditions. So it's not one-to-one where you have a stressful day and then, oh my God, next tomorrow it's really going to be terrible. It really is this constant sort of stress that sort of causes problems to our bodies.